We are.
Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Tool Belt, episode 217. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned. We will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
GC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. GC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
GC Backer.
It's you, Ty.
Oh, and we're back. Welcome back, everybody. To
As we talk about peaches.
Yeah, peaches. Yeah, there's that. What device is that? I can't remember. It's like a laser hair.
I don't know. It's
thing,
just the
but
hottest thing in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
I tag. So anytime this ad pops up on my phone, I tag Chris in it, and it's a laser hair removal.
Trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But welcome back, everybody. Chris and I always have a great time together. Chris is a mentor of mine, whether he wants to admit that or not. He's been my sounding board over the years. He's walked me off the ledge many times over the years. And most importantly, he's my friend. He's the owner, entrepreneur of To the T Outfitters. He does all of our swag. He does our everything. He does our yard signs, our hats, our t-shirts, and has been very patient with me over the years and has always been just a great addition to anything that we've ever gotten into. You've been able to rip it out for us super quick. I think the team has gotten out in front of it a little bit better for you, but in any case, Chris has always been there for me and great dude. So that's why he's back on. He got to share our 200th episode with us, him and David Bruno. And just so you know, that's how important you are to me in my life, because obviously the 200th episode was a pretty big milestone for us. It's over almost 4 years, just over 4 years of doing this continuously. And we had a small conversation before this about another appointment that I should have probably been at today,
Right.
But the show always goes on.
I even wore your colors today.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw you walking across the parking lot.
Yeah. I didn't dress up, but I wore the colors,
Yeah.
So, but that was the kind words. Thank you.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't
welcome.
ever have to do that.
Yeah. Well, you've played a big part in this. You've watched us grow. You've supported us. You've done all this. You've always been there. I mean, I've screamed and hollered and made you probably feel like a piece of crap at times. And probably most recently, we had that discussion, but that's who you are. I called you up and I was like, hey, dude, I shouldn't have said those things. And you have not. And this goes to prove what type of individual you are, because you don't treat me any differently because I had a bad day. You allowed me to take it out on you. And unfortunately, I think most of us don't even realize that we do that. We take out our bad behaviors out on those that we love the most. And unfortunately, it really has nothing to do with them. It has something to do with everything else that might be going on. But that you happen to just.
It's funny you talk about that, because I just, my son's obviously involved in the business, and that happens, you know what I mean? And I walk back in the door and I know they get frustrated with me, but I haven't had a long period of time to really coach them up. So I always tell them sometimes it's more I'm frustrated with myself and I got mad, and then the next day I'm fine, but that's because I love them. I love you, we're all friends, and I don't know if I could go to bed every night putting my head on the pillow about hating somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
Well, the thing that's a great topic too. Hate is such an energy suck, and I think, I don't think a lot of people realize, because of hatred and non-forgiving, not being able to forgive somebody, that I think that's more of an internal thing. There's something more deeper wrong with you if you actually don't like or dislike an individual. Chances are it's probably because you see something in them that you see in yourself is probably why you dislike them, or envy, or whatever the case might be. But what an energy time depleter, right? That just depletes you of all your energy, that energy that goes into hating somebody, because hate's a pretty powerful word.
Well, I just think, I don't know if it's the hate thing. I just putting time into that negativity. I've tried. That's one of the things I've been working on, Ty. We talk about all the time, the negativity, and people think I'm negative, and getting people to change that persona of you know what I mean? It's hard. Am I a complainer? Yep. I'll raise my hand. Yeah. Do I do that? And when you listen to somebody like Eric Brewer, and he talks about it all the time, that it's just like working out, changing that negativity. Like going to work out every 3 days a week. It's so hard. But changing it helps, but it's hard, like going to work out. Like, I'm going to go work out 3 days a week.
That's what I mean. That helps.
Yeah. And we don't go work 3 days a week, and we can't change our ways, but we can. And then, and I think that people, listening to things like this or reading books helps us get down that road.
What's funny about this topic is I think what had helped me over the years to want to start changing and to be a more positive person is because I did see myself in somebody else. I was actually able to get 1,000-foot view of me in somebody else, and saw how they treated other people or how they responded to certain situations. And I thought to myself, and I actually remember a moment, and there's been many moments that I've acted poorly, but there's also been quite a few moments over the years too, where I've actually seen myself in other people and got to actually witness how my behavior is. And many years ago, I was talking to a gentleman, and I guess I said something that he didn't like, and he threw this box of books at me, and and said a few choice words, and he stormed out. And I thought to myself, man, that's me. That is me, and that's how I handle situations. And by being able to identify that and see myself, if I can hover over myself, and that was one of those moments where I was able to rise above myself and actually see myself in that individual. And it's like, I don't want to I don't want to act like that in front of other people. I don't want other people to feel the way that I felt after he threw that box of books at me. Now, there were some other things that transpired after that. And then, of course, my behavior wasn't the greatest after that either. The cops were called and blah, 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 blah. But that was one of those learning moments, both sides, no matter what they did to me. Okay. So this is a different angle here too. But my behavior actually outweighed what they did to me in that moment. So, and we haven't talked about this for a while, but it's like, I can make any situation as good as I want,
or
I
as
can
bad
make,
as you want.
or I can make it worse.
Yeah.
Right. And that was
And
one of those times where I made it worse.
yeah, and the 1,000-year analogy of the 1,000-foot view of myself. One of the things that I found in my life, and I've been married to her for almost 20 years. I call her my mirror because she always says to me, "Do you like look at yourself? Look how this." And I don't care, whatever.
Right.
Screw them, and then you come back. You're right. You know what I mean? And the humbleness sometimes is what makes you mad more.
Of course.
Right? Them saying, "Look at yourself," or them being more humble to just try to help you.
Yeah.
Makes you even more mad because they're right.
They're right.
They're right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're absolutely right. And I think the best part of this is if you apologizing all the time might not be the best, but if people see that you truly care and you try to change, or you know what I mean? Like, look, we've had a disagreement, and I knew that letting you vent, you would come back later.
Yeah.
I knew that. Right. And letting
you even said that to me.
Yeah. I was like, it got to a point in the conversation where I was just like, I shut down, like I just stopped. And first of all, if anybody knows Chris Markey, that's hard. Right. And it taught me a lot, like how to do that. And, this situation with my son and his girlfriend, obviously who are a huge part of our business, right? This situation of parenting through growing a business is very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And I've never done this before. So
Right.
I'm learning as we go, and you try to talk to people and we try to, every morning we text, or, you have a situation, and that's one of my favorite parts about you. Little people didn't know, every morning we text you, "Yo, what's up? Good morning." That's it. I think they have that Snapchat where they snap each other consistently every day. I think we've texted each other every morning. I don't know if we broke a morning.
No.
South Carolina, I think we missed one, or maybe on a weekend, on a Sunday.
Very often.
Not very often, but it become part of my routine. Like I expect, I guess it was more of for me, it was more of there's somebody that's out there fighting a battle like me. You know what I mean? And granted, I got support. My wife's awesome. My kids are awesome, but there's somebody, and we talk to other people that are in businesses, and there's a lot of them in York County that I'm friends with that are awesome. But that has meant the world to me.
Yeah, me too. I almost feel some kind of way if you haven't done it by 10 a.m. sometimes.
So you get mad.
Yeah. I get mad.
I often wonder why I got to text first. That's what that is.
Well, every now and then I will, and you're like, "Damn it, you beat me."
That's right. Or, "I'm sorry, I forgot."
Yeah. And it's nothing profound or, that you send me. It's just like, "Hey, good morning." But it allows me to know, it gives me that moment, before I get my day started, Chris is thinking about me.
Yeah.
Right. Because what we go through. Because you've heard enough of my story. I've bounced enough things off of you, and you can only imagine what my day is going to be like because I don't stop.
And usually if it gets to a point, Ty, like, and people don't understand, it'll be some mornings where it's not just yo or good morning. It's, do you have 2 seconds to talk?
Yes.
Because something happened or something's coming up that I just want to run something by you. And I don't feel like, I think like you've grown exponentially. Sometimes I don't feel that I'm worthy of some of these situations because it's more profound. Like that ladder has gone pretty quickly for you. And I don't feel like but then most of the time, what I say, you're like, "Yep, I needed that." Or there's times I'll say something, I'm thinking, don't want to put my little meaningless little things on you. And you're like, no, this is it. I've been there. Yeah. And that matters.
This is what's cool about having a relationship like this, and the importance of mentorship. Okay. Because we mentor each other, we coach each other, we counsel each other at times. You know what I'm saying? And it's super important to have that in an individual's life. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner, a father, to have another father to talk to that may have children, or whatever the case might be. The connection is, Chris, is that we're both entrepreneurs, we're both fathers, we're both try high performers, and we suffer from the same feelings and emotions. The revenue doesn't matter. all these other little things that we tell ourselves sometimes, oh, I'm not going to bounce that little thing off him. We've both gone through it. The feelings are the same, right? Whether it's somebody's acting up at work, or our child at home is sick, or a loved one, the feelings are the same. And that's the important connection between us and those lies that we tell ourselves sometimes, because I think our mind sabotages us. Like, now I can handle this. I don't need to talk to anybody about it. But it's so funny when you do finally open up and share what I'm going through with another person, how that starts to diminish, or how relatable that is with the other person. Like, yeah, man, my mom went through the same thing, or yeah, I dealt with a disgruntled team member. This is how I handled it, or whatever. It doesn't matter. The scenarios may not always be the same, but the feelings that we feel, the overwhelmness, the anxiety, the anxiousness, the depression, right? The situational depression that we put ourselves in, that's where our connection has grown, and our friendship has grown. And knowing, and this is the important piece to this, is that knowing that you can trust anything.
Yeah, that's the main cog. That's the main cog. Like, you and I went out and had lunch the one day, and we can sit there and talk about something, and not that. And listen, there's a lot of other people that I feel I can be confident in with that. But I just know that when we walked away from that table, and there was things on your mind that day.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling me, like, I could see it by the way you were eating. Yeah. Like, your eating was like choppy. You know what I mean? I was thinking, like that food doesn't have a chance, you know. But it was real choppy, and I could feel that there was some, like, when I come around you, and because we're friends, and just like I know when right away I know when I let my wife down immediately. Like, it's not even, which is quite often. She's a saint, no doubt. She's an angel, but it's quite often, and I know right away. Now, years ago, I wouldn't have cared about it, but because you or her or people that are very important, my son and his girlfriend, like my sons, and that it matters to me. Whereas in the past, I'd have taken that fight outside. Yeah. Not just the books. I'd have taken that fight outside. Right. And so, these conversations, though we only feel that it's a very short conversation, it really is very long in the life of me as a gray-haired 56-year-old man, meaning, like, it helps my life. It helps me extend that part of my life, where I think if I'd have internalized that more and more, and didn't have a resource or a friend or somebody to turn to like that, I think I'd probably would have had a stroke or a heart attack.
No doubt. Me too.
Yeah. I mean, there was days, Ty, if you remember, like when I moved into the new building, I was walking at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you were answering your phone, and I got to talk to you. Like, my stress was out the roof. Yeah. And now that whole has changed because the hard work you put into it, right? It's all changed, and the help support the people that support you, right? Yeah. So that kind of has changed. Now our conversations are a little different. You know what I mean?
For sure.
They're little different of the build, not as much, but the maintain, and how do we get better?
The maintenance.
Right.
And I like how you said, like, you look at things differently today, or you treat people differently today because you're more aware. Before, it was just kind of like a selfish thing. This is my goal. I'm going to get to it no matter who's in my wake. Right. And a lot of times those that are in our wake are our family, our friends.
Totally 100%.
You know what I mean? But today you're more present, you're more conscious, and you're more aware of our behaviors, how they affect people.
And sometimes we do those behaviors with our family. We continue to do it, whereas with everybody else, we've become more cognizant, and that's unfair to our family because they put it up with the longest.
100%. Right. 100%.
So, and it's hard to get away from that sometimes because they have been okay with it. Whereas maybe you've lost some friends because of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
For sure. And, this goes back to what you were saying earlier too. It's like, after time of saying I'm sorry or being apologetic, like that starts to fall on deaf ears, right? Like, you can only say I'm sorry so many times.
I've seen this show before, right? That's what they're thinking. I've seen this.
Like stop saying you're sorry. Okay, it's okay, but learn from it. If I did something wrong, I need to learn from that. What am I experiencing here? What's going on? Because if there's something wrong, there's something wrong with me. 100% of the time, if there's something wrong, right, there's something wrong with me.
And what's crazy is my wife talks to me about that all the time. Chris, this is starting to get old. That's her favorite. Like, this is like, what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go down this road.
And
Like,
she knows that's a button to push with you.
oh, matter of fact, it might be 4 or 5 buttons, right?
No
You
doubt.
you stomp
Couple
out,
levers.
you go out in the garage, you throw the hammer around, and then you
Right.
walk back in and go, "You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a fool."
But she knows you need to hear it and how you need to hear it.
I will tell you this, and maybe you don't have this situation, but I have it with my wife. My
Mhm.
wife, if you walked in here right now and she was on this show, is the nice, like yours,
Mhm.
nicest angel, whatever.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I tell everybody, because she'll be talking about work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why don't you show them the side that I get?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll think differently of you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
She's like, no, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I'm like, or she'll start yelling at me about something, and I'll be like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
That is so like awesome. Why don't you do that at work? Do what?
Mhm.
But I think that that's just for us. Like, it was meant for us. Like, it was God given for them in our relationship.
Yeah.
For us. Like, she was put there.
Right. And
to
like
do
I,
that
like
to
I
me.
touched on, like they know how we need to receive that message. They know what buttons that'll stop us in our tracks so we hear it. You know what I mean? And Vic and I have conversations. I know how I need to talk to him sometimes. He knows how he needs to talk to me sometimes.
You know his love language.
I do. But
well, that's what it's
but for
called.
knuckleheads and those of us that can put blinders on, right? And it's not in a negative way that we put blinders on. We just know that we have a short attention span.
Yep.
That we need to focus. We got to get something done. But sometimes certain things need to stop us dead in our tracks. And sometimes that's on how things are said to us, especially by those that love us. Know what to say, when to say it, to shut us up. Or maybe they're not having such a good day either and they just want to hurt us. You know what I mean? But that it all kind of like, but at the end of the day, we love each other. And because of that love, that gives us the strength and the courage to keep pushing. Right. To keep pushing. Like, Chris, don't give up yet. This building is the greatest thing that you've ever done.
Yes.
Big things are coming.
Her mom says something that goes right along with it. She always said, I may not like what you do, but I'll always love you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like profound. Like, this short little phrase, is pretty profound. One of the other things you talked about, what we do in our lives that changes the thought process of what we are. So when I write emails, the couple things I do, and usually is, when I answer an email, a lot of times I'll be like, hey, hope this finds you well. I read a great book, and I can't remember what it was or find it, but I read it, and they always talked about starting your emails with a great phrase and ending on a great phrase. So when I email people, I'll be like, hey, hope this finds you well. And then now end in, hey, thanks in advance for helping me out.
Yeah, it's great.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's some things I put in there, and people might think like it's just part of your signature. It's not. Like, I just had a text from a lady whose daughter wants to play lacrosse. And at the end, I just says, hey, listen, I hope this information helps and hope all's well with the family.
I love that. I intentionally don't put thank you in my signature.
I put regards, but my wife says it sounds so freaking old.
I don't do that because I want them to know thank you from me or sincerely. Based upon what I'm, whatever the email is, the contents of that, I might put sincerely, I might put thank you, but I want them to know, and I'll put a couple of exclamation points at the end of it so they know it's me actually typing thank you, sincerely, thank you.
Well,
and that's changed. I won't put that in my signature.
It changed it.
And if I don't put thank you, then I'm pissed.
When I started, let me tell you how the whole thing changes when you start putting hope this finds you well at the beginning. Like, the whole tone of I could have just told them that, hey, listen, I'm going to cut you off. You know what I mean? You haven't paid me yet. I could have just said that to them. Yeah. Hey, listen, Chris, I really understand. Thanks for reaching out. Here's what I'm going to do to take care of this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thanks for your understanding. Like, the email you get back. Yeah. And
it's much more pleasant and more probably about solution.
Or they
not
think
staying stuck in the problem.
Yeah. And, with people, they have certain persona of certain people. So, you know what I mean? I'm the president, or I'm the hammer, or I'm the what, you know what I mean? They're thinking I'm going to get hammered from this. Yeah. And if you start and don't do that, you kill them with kindness. I hate that phrase. I never loved that phrase. Yeah. But it's true.
Yeah. My mom used to say that a lot.
Oh,
kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah. She would use it for advice. Right. I don't know if she actually did it herself, but she was definitely had a way with people to get them to do things that they didn't want to do.
And the other one I heard the other day was kind means you care. I was like, wow, So I'm gonna be a little more kind. It means you care. Like
Yeah.
they're defining you based on you being kind.
You know, and this is the deal, man. And we hear this a lot, especially in the books and the podcasts that we listen to. It's like we don't know what other people have gone through, you know, where they came from or what they're going through at that moment. Right. So what's wrong with being kind? It's free. What's
Right.
wrong with being sympathetic? What's wrong with trying to be understanding? And there's a good phrase out there. I just read it the other day. Don't seek to be understood, but seek to understand
Understand. I was gonna say
something. And I know I screwed that up, but think about that. Like, instead of me sitting here arguing with you so you understand me, okay, why don't I take a step back and try to understand? You know, I don't need you to
Mhm.
I don't need to be understood at this moment, but take a step back, take a deep breath, and try to understand where you're coming from.
My wife always says, I just need you to hear me.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't need you to answer me.
But
I
think
don't need
about, seriously, it's such a simple phrase, but think about how relevant that is, because there's a difference between listening, you know, and really hearing something,
Mhm.
you know, like, listen to my words.
I don't need you to fix it. Like I'm a fixer. Are you a
Mhm.
fixer?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a
Oh,
fixer.
yeah.
So my wife has had, and the other phrase I use with my wife is sometimes you got to hit me in the head with a 2x4
Hmm. Yeah.
because I might have listened, but I didn't hear.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you
Right.
got to hit me in the head with a 2x4,
Right.
and she'll say to me, "This is the 2x4."
Yeah. Right. Right.
And I'll be like,
We just
"Oh,
had a conversation with somebody not that long ago, and it's like I use the metaphor, the phrase of, like, you know, sometimes God jams on the brakes and makes your head go through the windshield.
mm,
You know what I mean? Because and those moments, because and again, I'm going back into us knuckleheads sitting in this room right now. Our heads are so hard, and when we get stuck on something, it's like we can't see. And again, we throw those blinders up, but we need smacked upside the head with a 2x4, or our heads driven straight through the windshield, the glass, because that's where we're looking. And that was why I used that metaphor, because we're continuously outwardly looking, but sometimes that tire needs to go flat in order for my head
to hit the windshield."
to hit that windshield
Yep.
and to wake me up
Oh,
a little bit and take a step back, take a deep breath, and analyze, you know, or hear what I'm supposed to be listening to.
right.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of times I'm afraid that I misinterpret things, which can be a good thing, because I'll listen to a book and get something totally different out of it and run with it, even though, and sometimes I know it means something else, but it just strikes a different idea. But that in a negative light, like, you may say something via text message, right? And I can take that and blow that on out of just proportion, because I couldn't see your face. I didn't read
Wrong
it right,
time. You
misinterpret
got the
it.
text at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You dropped the bomb. And I tell some of my
I
sales reps,
half read it.
yeah, I'm half read. Right.
Yeah.
I read this and then I read the third line and
Right.
I didn't put it all together.
Mhm.
Well, I tell the sales reps all the time, if you have a question, pick up the phone and call somebody.
100%.
Hey, listen, I misunderstood. Can you explain to me, or what
Yeah.
does this mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think people are afraid to let other people know, I don't understand. I'm confused.
Yep.
And being able to articulate that without coming off harsh. Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Well, if you can just simply state that, I think I'm a little confused. I really don't understand. I know I'm guilty of not raising my hand saying, can you explain that again? Or can you explain that in a different way?
What's the phrase you always use when you don't catch, or I'm not here, right? Or my mind isn't, what's the phrase you always use on me? Like I'm the frequent, I forget what it is, but you always use it on me when you're not there. Like I'm not in this conversation right now, like my frequency or something. You always use that. And that's my key to be like,
Shoot,
all
what
right,
is
let's
it?
bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
the bandwidth for this right now.
Right. Chris, I don't have the bandwidth, which means my mind is not here right now.
Yeah. And I've gotten better on saying that too,
Right.
because I hate to, as much as I hate to say that, because I try to be intentional with other people's time.
Right.
But there was a moment out here in the office one day, and Amanda and Tam approached me about something, and my mind, there was no way I was going to be able to retain what she was trying to say to me. I was like, can you give me an hour? Like, my head someplace else. And she just kind of looked at me like, Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'll come back, but right this second, I got to get done whatever it is that I'm stuck on.
That bandwidth thing, when
Yeah.
you first said that to me, I didn't know whether I should fight with you. I didn't know, like, are we arguing or bandwidth? I've never had that dropped on me. Like, I didn't know how to react. And I was like, yeah,
I get that.
I get it. But I didn't know
Yeah.
what to say. But
Right.
now I'll
Mhm.
use it. Hey man, right now, I'm not at a point to be talking about
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Like, I'm not,
Yeah.
you know,
Like hit me at between 7 and 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's when I'm freshest.
right.
Hit me with that idea. And that I think a lot of that has to do with self-awareness, knowing me and how I tick, when I'm the freshest, when I'm going to be the most tiredest, when should I schedule my meetings? When should I schedule my appointments, whether it's doctor's appointments? I know that after 3 o'clock is a good time for me to schedule my doctor's appointments because that's brainless stuff. I know I got to drive the well span and
Take blood.
yeah,
Whatever.
you know what I mean? So it's like I've tried to, where do I perform the best at what times a day? You know what I mean? And Tuesday, every other Tuesday, we have what's called the business meeting at 7:30 a.m. I know I'm the freshest on a Tuesday.
Right.
Sometimes Monday, I'm still trying to clean some things up. I'm a little neurotic, because it's Monday. I'm that's something.
We've had 8 Red Bulls.
Yeah, by 6:30 a.m. Been on the treadmill since 4:30.
Right.
The pre-workout hasn't wore off yet. Yeah.
Fired up,
Yeah.
walking into that meeting,
Yeah.
right? And everybody's walking in like this.
Yeah.
And you're bouncing off
Right.
the walls, right?
Right. Yeah.
I love, like, that is so funny because we're so much alike.
Yeah.
Like in the morning, like I'm a morning person.
Me too.
Right. So we talk in the morning. Like,
Yep.
and I'll get up and make coffee and I'll go up and see my wife and she's like staggering into the bathroom. And I just want to be like, yo, man, what's going
up?
on today?
Yeah.
Today's I'm fired up. And
Right.
she'd be like, yo, can you give me like
Yeah.
a half hour?
So think about that for a minute. So how can you harness that time? Is that the time that maybe you should turn a book on, listen to a podcast?
Which I do.
You know what I mean? And a lot
Yeah.
of people miss those opportunities. And
Well, the dead time in the car.
yeah.
Right.
On the
So
way to work or
yeah, and how
anytime.
well, yes, and depending on how long the ride is.
Yeah.
And what do I want to hear? Like, who do I want to hear it from today? That's been my biggest definition of what do I want to hear today.
Yeah.
I listen to Craig Groeschel. I listen to a bunch of, I listen to
Oh, yeah.
books. And what am I want to, I've even
Mhm.
gone back and started listening to books,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Me
That
too.
I listened to in the past.
You have to.
Yeah.
You almost have to. It's not
There
always.
was what was
yeah.
the one we were talking about the one day, and you told me you go back to that section 550 or was that what's his enemies? Patrick
yeah.
Bay David.
Yeah, Patrick Bet David. Your next 5 moves.
Your next 5 moves.
Yeah.
And you always go back. You were like, I always go back to chapter
Yeah.
whatever. Or,
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That book. That's a yearly book. I've chosen yearly books
Right.
that I read at least once a year, if not read them 2-3 times in a row.
Right.
And it seems like every time I read those same books, I get something different from it, whether I read over it, I skimmed it, or I'm just in a different season of my life where it means something to me, or it wasn't relevant at that time.
Wow, that's big. It's a different season of your life, which is so true.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
so true.
Right.
Like it is. That's spot on.
Mhm.
I would have never, like, I read Sports Illustrated in the newspaper when I was younger. You know
Right.
what I mean? I
Yeah.
would go through because
Yep.
sports was in the newspaper.
That
when
was
I
the
young.
season of your life.
That
You
was
were
it.
in the sports.
I was
every
reading.
day.
Everybody's like, "Do you read?" Yep, I read. What books? No, I read Sports Illustrated front to back, or I read. You know what I mean? Yeah,
The swimsuit issue. Right.
all of them. Yeah, not just one.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Good for you.
right. And Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Right, Vic. Rolling Stone. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
love
I'm
Rolling
just saying,
Stone.
like, the different types. This is the time in your life, like,
Mhm.
I'm into documentaries and
Yeah.
stuff, and my wife and them go crazy because they want to watch some stupid shows on Netflix.
Right.
I'm going to watch something that
Yeah.
is already passed.
Mhm. Right. Well, it's funny you say that because on my YouTube, I don't know, it's not my channel, but like, it picks up certain algorithms and
Mhm.
stuff. And I like to study past leaders, whether it's Winston Churchill, Henry Ford, all of them.
Mhm.
And now if you turn my TV on in my office over there, YouTube pops up. And what it is, it's like, because I've watched these other leaders, past leaders, and it seems like the 1900s, man, like a lot of good leaders came out of like, 1900, 1901, 1902, 3. It's like there's just this, there was a lot of good
Leaders.
blazers. Yeah.
Good word.
Back in the day, where it's like, and I kind of nerd out on it, and it's like everything that I can find by Henry Ford, like I watch it, listen to it, read it, as much as I can, because those guys didn't have, like, maybe Dale Carnegie and those guys, the older people that wrote the book, which just blows my mind how smart and intelligent and profound they were. Because today, I mean, it's an information world that we're in today. I mean, you can go anywhere and find anything that you want to research, study, whatever, whether it be Google, whether it be Chat GPT now, whether it be podcast, books, audio, paperback, whatever. They didn't have none of that. That was them.
That's why the houses had libraries that were huge, right?
Yeah.
They would bring out books in from all over.
I almost feel like, dude, I'm dumb compared to these people that, John Maxwell. Dude, where does this guy come up? Now, if you know the history of John Maxwell, how his dad was a leader and a pastor, and so was his mom. They actually sent him through Dale Carnegie's course back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So he had a jump start way, which is how I'm trying to bring Rocket up. Like, I give him books to read and stuff like that, because how important, if we want him to make history someday, right? Or whoever that might be, someone you're mentoring, coaching, like we have the opportunity to point them in the right direction, but getting back to what I was saying, like, but the 1900s, man, produced like so many great leaders, man, the trailblazers, man, and what's crazy about it is, man, what was that 100 years ago, 100, at least 100 years ago, right? 125, 24 years ago, dude, how relevant it is today. And I don't care if it's Zig Ziglar from sales,
right?
John Maxwell, who's still with us, thank God. But
Patrick Leonissi or whatever, is like, there's a lot of people, like a lot of writers that refer back to
all of that. They quote them.
They quote them. They read them. You know what I mean? You brought up something there that was pretty crazy. Is you're like, hey, I'm giving my son a book, right? Or I give him books.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what's really mind blowing is when your son and my son Garrison and I start talking to each other. He's like, "Do you read this book yet?" And we're sitting there going over what books we read. That's like mind blowing. Because if anybody understand my son Garrison, a little while ago, you knew he worked for you. There was a lot of challenges going on, and now you sit and talk to him, and you go, "Wow, you know what I mean?"
A lot of that has to contribute to those that we surround ourselves with. And look at the group of people that he's with today.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And what's cool about that is that first and foremost, he did find his way, right? Because we all, not that he was a horrible kid or anything like that, but he was at that crossroad,
right?
You know what I mean? Where as a young adult, we all come to that crossroad. Fortunately, he chose to go the way that he's gone, but how quickly he's picked it up because of those that he surrounded himself with.
Embarrassment. When you talk about that, and I'm not going to go down the road, but embarrassment makes you reevaluate things real quickly.
No doubt. What's embarrassing?
Well,
because you feel like you couldn't do it for him.
Embarrassment for him.
Oh, embarrassment for him.
Right. Like I carry his picture around.
Okay.
From back when, and I carry that around to remind me to think better as a parent.
Yeah.
Every day.
Right.
And also, if he wants to chirp.
Yeah.
I just pull it out and go, why are you being this kid right here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's crazy. Let's talk about kids, but it's crazy how kids are different.
Yeah.
I have my son 100%. Mason. He's a pleaser. Like he's awesome.
Yeah.
Just an awesome kid, a pleaser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has the challenges that Garrison doesn't have. I mean, Garrison went out and walked up to a house and was filming himself doing a cold call with a house on a knock on a door.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't even do that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Mason wouldn't do that, but he has his own. We all have our own characteristics.
Yep.
But like Mason doesn't read all that much, but he's into history and documentaries.
Yeah.
So he's going to listen to this podcast and go, yeah, you know what, Tom is right. I was on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Garrison's going to talk to me about the books. You know what I mean? So it's kind of how you find your way.
Yeah.
Not only with your kids, but also find your way to help them get better by teaching them about.
Yeah.
Some get it by books. Some get
Yeah.
it where you're like, hey, I'm interested in this, and all of a sudden they become interested in it.
Absolutely.
You know, because that makes them a better person and a better leader.
100%.
Yep. You
No,
know,
and I love that. I love this topic, you know, and it goes back into the beginning of this topic is mentoring. You know, if we mentor our kids, we coach our kids, we raise our kids.
well, we try
And
to
why would we treat anybody any differently?
right. But
You know,
we have flaws though too. Because when we try to mentor, remember you said you get mad and
man,
then
listen, we laugh because, or maybe I laugh at this, and I've told many people where I screwed my first kid up. By the time when the second one came around, we did a little bit better, but by the third one, we nailed this one. But that's not true. No, it's not true. Now, there had definitely been some things that I learned over the years.
yeah.
Right. And my oldest had definitely walked in my shoes. Like he you know, took the path that I had chose. And I saw a lot of myself in him. And again, going back to what we said, I think that's what pissed me off even more
Right.
about it, when I would get so frustrated with him. Right. But he has found his way. He's doing great today. But this is thing, like, we all have to go through what we go through to get where we're at today, to know what we know through the experiences, the trials, the tribulations, the ups, the downs, the ebbs, the flows.
And I want to spew that out now as I'm older.
Yeah.
Right now, as I'm more wiser, whatever
Mhm.
word you want to use.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I want to spew that out. to
Seasoned.
more seasoned, right? Like
Yeah.
a steak, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to spew that out more to my kids. And
Mhm.
sometimes they also have to learn that on their
Yeah,
own. You
for sure.
can't, you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like
100%.
you have to.
It's never a good idea until we think it's a good idea. And same thing for them.
Yeah. Well, you know, why did you do that? You know, it might
Mhm.
not be the best way to present it.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Listen,
Right.
every day I struggle
Me
working
too.
hard.
Me too.
Every day. Why did you
Being
do that?
aware of it, though, is half the battle.
Yeah.
You admitting that right this second, you just saying that right now, is half the battle.
Yeah, I admit it
Some
every
people are so ignorant and oblivious that they don't know that they say horrible things. Maybe they do, and they don't give a shit.
right.
And that's where the ignorance comes into play a little bit, maybe. But knowing that, like, you know right away, you see it over your wife's face as soon as you
Right.
say something stupid.
Well, the other thing too is when
Or your
your
children.
when your son, like Mason, has said, he says something to me that really breaks me down and makes me really step back and think.
Mhm.
And I always, you know, Dad, you've never done me wrong.
Right.
Like everything that you've ever
Yeah.
said to me worked out. You helped me get through recruiting for lacrosse. You know what I mean? We picked
Yeah.
the right college based on you helping me to walk down this line. You never
Absolutely.
did me wrong.
Yeah.
And then when you're working in business with him and you have a disagreement and you're embarrassed about it, you know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm going, I never did him wrong. And I feel I did him wrong now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But really, it's a learning for both of us.
Of course.
He
it is.
doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
He's just mad at me,
Yeah.
but it's a
Yeah.
learning for both of us. I just think, like, how do we get on these topics? Like, we just start rolling.
Yeah.
Like, you know, those questions you wrote down, you want to ask me them now, or are we good?
Well, I only put 2 questions in there, and it was something that I heard somewhere else, but I don't even know where they're at. Oh, and it really it doesn't really have anything to do with the topics.
Yeah.
It does, entrepreneurship, and you know, I guess if I'm gonna ask you the question, one of the questions would be like, so what's the end goal?
Yeah. You know, I try to,
What's the end goal here?
well,
with-
just
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, the end goal was I'm just selling it all and I'm moving.
Mhm. Yeah.
This week, it's like, all right, it's going to be yours. Let's walk you through this. I'm going to get out a certain period of time. So it changes every day. I don't know the end goal. You know, Todd, we've never owned a business this big before, have we?
No.
It's not like, you know, I'm not like Elon Musk, who has one, sells it, has another one, sells it. I can't even imagine
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. Or owning, like, I think Tony Robbins owns like 150 businesses.
Shaq, look, Shaquille O'Neal,
Right.
right? How many businesses he owns?
Yeah.
Like, and I know he doesn't go to all this stuff or get involved in any of it,
Right.
but what's the end goal? Don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I get there,
Yeah.
then I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And you can have me back on the show for number 775,000,
There you
and
go.
we'll talk.
Yeah. Right. Well, Vic and I, you know, we had a discussion the other day. I was like, what are we doing here? You know, what are we doing here? Like, and on many levels, you know, what are we doing with the podcast? What are we doing with TC Backer? What can we do with the podcast that affects TC Backer? Like, because our goals and the vision changes over time.
Mhm.
Because whether we met that goal or not, and we had to deviate or pivot a little bit, sometimes it's hard to remember why we started out doing this to begin with.
Dude, you've come a long way. And I mean, equipment helps out too,
Yeah.
but you've come a long way with this.
Right.
Like now to look back,
So what's our next step?
I don't,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Well,
And-
isn't
and-
that the way with business though?
Yeah, 100%. So that's the thing. Maybe there is no end in sight, but I think some people get so divulged in, like, you know, this is the end date. This is the date. This is the time. You know, yes, I have goals. I have a vision. I have things, you know, ideas, you know what I mean? And, you know, and I guess that's what I was talking about before we went on here. It was like, I was beating myself up at the end of the year because I didn't have this big State of the Union speech to give to everybody. Like, this is the goal, and this is, we're doing this, and revenue that, and you're going to be promoted here, and raises for everybody. You know what I mean? Well, like I said, how many times have we pivoted, changed, added throughout the course of the year? So why did January 2nd, that Monday, why was I so hemmed up on it? But then looking back, it was like most of those things, we were so far out in front of that, and we knew that, and from our experience, whether it was marketing, we're going to change some things, add some things to marketing. We knew we needed to do that long before January 2nd if we wanted it to come to fruition by April 15th. This year, 2024. Do you know what I mean? So here I was beating myself up over not having like this big plan. And you know what? Nothing changed. Nobody came to me and was like, so what's the plan for 2024, Ty? Or I'm leaving.
It was important to you.
It was important, and it still is to me.
Right.
But here we are ending, you know, the first quarter. So what am I going to do to get together? And I have some great ideas to get together with the team, and maybe not all at once, but now we got 4 locations.
Did you ever read the book 12 week year?
No, I heard of it. I've and I know a couple of people that have read it.
It's pretty unique. Break it instead of, so you have a new year every 12 weeks.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So why is it, you know, with the resolutions and all this, January 1st, such a big freaking deal for everybody? And it's like, yeah, every day I get to wake up is a new day.
Yeah.
You know, who gives a shit? And again, it's more about removing stuff and not adding more goals to it. You know what I mean? It's about removing the negativity, the energy, the time steals, the things that distract us, the distractions.
Mhm.
That's what our goal is this year. What are we removing that has been distracting us? You know, and going back to the conversation that I had with Vic, I think it was last week before the podcast. We were talking about, like, you know, we've gotten so distracted with all this stuff, and it's so overwhelming. And it's like, whoa. I can't see the forest of the trees right now because we planted too many goddamn trees.
Right.
You know what I mean? We've planted so many trees, and it's like, you know what? Break that chainsaw out, brother.
Yeah. Let's cut them down.
Let's drop a couple,
Right.
create some timber here with what we got.
Right.
And fire this bitch back up.
I always said, and I think I said to you, matter of fact, I mentioned it to Vic earlier, it would be awesome because you guys have built this podcast, but it would be awesome if there was an ability to use what you know or put it into the community where there's more podcasts related to the kids, whether it be a trade show for kids, whether it be a sports show for kids that they come on and do the podcast and talk about the sports and have them run it or whatever. You know, you've come so far.
Yeah.
You have such nice equipment. Remember when I told you when we had that 200th show and you had this set up, and I was like, dude, you should be, should be used all the time. Like it should be.
And this is a temporary thing until we're remodeling down at the official.
And that was a nice place too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice place to even.
And I think our attention span, we get bored, and that's what's helped this thing grow.
Right.
You know, we get bored. And I think I even said, I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
What happens in the business?
Yeah.
So my wife asked me, you know, why is, you know, she likes to go home, sit down, eat her meal, blah, blah, blah. To me, I'm like 7,000 miles an hour. I saw a new machine, honey. I was up at 3:30 this morning looking at that stuff. It's all go. And now that we've got the building up and running, you know, we're feeding the monster.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's taking care of itself and people know their roles and how we're doing. I'm not bored, but you know,
yeah.
So, but I get you. I totally feel like if my mind stops, then I stop.
Yeah.
I really feel that way.
No doubt. Yeah, for sure. And that's just who we are. And I think that's why I know that's why we've always hit it off well,
Right.
because I think we complement each other well. Usually when I'm, you're kind of even keel and can bring me back in, or vice versa.
It has been that way, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, did you read The Energy Bus?
I've read it 4 times the moment you told me about it.
Yeah. And the other one
Yeah.
I gave you was a no complaining rule.
I didn't read that one.
Oh
yet.
yeah, that's
Damn
that
it, I
same author.
forgot.
Yeah, John
No,
Gordon.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that Energy Bus is awesome.
I know it is.
And everybody's like,
I made
the,
my signature CEO,
Did you?
Chief Energy Officer. I wrote it out. So I have to see that every day.
Yes.
1,500 times a day. And it popped for whatever reason. It's the thing that pops up in my email is CEO, Chief Energy Officer. I have to remind myself that I need to bring the heat.
Did the bus driver remind you of your wife at all when she looks at you and says, because every time that guy got on the bus,
Yeah.
he would be complaining about something and she
Yep.
would change his
Yep.
in a heartbeat.
Joy.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the point was he stopped driving to
Yeah,
work.
right.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he was on the bus
Yeah.
to begin with. He
Uh-huh.
stopped driving because he liked being on the bus so much.
Of course.
I'd recommend that book to anybody.
Yeah, it was good. It's a short read. That's what's great about it.
And Patrick Bet-David's book.
Which one? The
The
new
Enemies.
one? Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
That's a good one.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if a lot of
It's long, but it's a good one. There's many books within the book.
I read
guess
it in
not
sections.
even chapters. Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's so much good stuff there. And really, I guess it's almost like he was in different seasons of his life as he was writing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he could have wrote 4 books, 3 books, 4 or 5
Right.
books probably within that book, because he
It
covers so
felt
many
like he had
topics.
left. It felt like he had left and came back to the topic after something or
Yeah.
inside that topic or inside that chapter.
Yeah.
It did feel like it was kind of, but I mean, not.
But he covers so much stuff.
so much.
Yeah, same with both of his books. He
So-
covered so much. And I felt like he wanted to cover everything. He wanted to fill you up with everything that he had, that he knew, he experienced in both books. And I got a lot out of both of them.
What's your newest like intriguement of books or people that are speakers? What have you found one lately?
You know, are you talking about like that spark?
Where
When
I
you
heard
discover something new or hear something new.
when I heard Craig Groeschel's,
Yeah.
the one I've shared with you, the
Yeah.
pastor
Yep.
from the.
I actually got to see him, by the way.
My wife
I
does.
saw him at a conference
Wow.
years ago.
Wow.
I just didn't put the 2 and 2 together when
His
you said
leadership podcast,
that.
though he's a pastor and he doesn't
I
talk
listen
about
to him
anything
every day,
or
or as much as I can.
The hardest part for my wife when she's listening to it, he's his monotone. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't really like everything
No.
is just right there.
Yes.
But that's what attracts me. Like that's what
Yeah.
helps me. Like I have
Listen,
to
and
concentrate.
everything is so profound and applies to everything that I'm doing in my life every day.
Every time he comes out with like, I have 8 of these and the 5 of these, and so I'm like, how many 7 5s and 6s can you have?
But I'm saying, where do they come up with this stuff at?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I'll be like, yeah, how many lists you gonna have? And then I listen to it, go, whoa, oh yeah.
I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me write that one down.
And
too.
then I
Hold on.
listen to
I'll
it
get
too
my
much because
pencil.
then I start thinking less of myself, because how can I cannot come up with this shit?
Yeah, how many lists can I write?
Yeah.
Like it's hard starting to write one.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's crazy. But that's like the profound, like when I heard him
Mhm.
and then I started sharing it with other people,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It
Oh,
was
yeah.
just
Yeah.
that really
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, I haven't felt like that spark though. I gotta find. I don't know. So what I tried to stop doing is adding new books to my
Mhm.
collection, because I feel like I need to go back through and reread a bunch of books, and I might add 4 books new to this year. And then Choose Your Enemies Wisely was definitely one of those new books that I've added into ones that I'm reading this year. But I think I'm going to go back and reread a lot, and I got a lot. You know what I mean? So I don't really want to add more to it yet until I feel like I got what I need, what I was supposed to get out of the first.
Yeah, one of
100
those is
books
I'm
that
going
I've
back
read.
to read is Gap or Gain.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a good one. Like
I've had that for years.
Yeah, I read it, then I read it again. I'm probably going to go back to it
Never
again.
split the difference.
Never split the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so, but a lot of people read the same books. You
Mhm.
just never, now where everybody's starting to say, hey, did you read that book? Yeah, I like chapter 7. You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's because we're different places in our life now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Where are we at here, Vic? We
are at 54 minutes.
54
Yeah,
minutes.
man.
Um,
Man. Vic, your hair looks nice today.
yeah, it does. Standing up. I like
Yeah.
it when he's.
I have to tell you though that all the people that you have on the show, and
Mhm.
I don't know, I met maybe one or two of them,
Mhm.
but all the people you have on the show, it's very interesting to listen to other different points of view.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. And I have to tell you, you have come a long way.
Thank you.
Like, you really know how to guide a show and pick stuff out and go from there. They call it the what do you mean by that
Mhm.
rule? Like, you know how to pick that. Hey, I was being loyal. Hey, can you define loyal for me? And then you let that person go on for a while. That is such an art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That means you're listening.
Mhm.
You're doing it for the show's purpose, but he said something that was profound. So now you wanted to expound upon
Well,
it.
do you want to know what happened? Why that started to happen was I mean, I don't know who said it, and I'm sure few people have said it over the years. None of this has to do with us, whether for the viewers, the listeners, or the guest. This is about you, and this is about them. This isn't about how cool I am because we do a podcast.
Right.
When I finally let that mindset sink in, right, and apply that, it had gotten a lot easier
Yeah.
to do this, to even sit in front of a camera and talk, because this isn't easy. This has been stepping outside my comfort zone for the past 4 years.
The hardest thing
When
was
it became not about me is when that started to happen.
the hardest thing. I shouldn't say the hardest thing to watch. The thing that mattered, or I saw where you could tell you were challenged, is when somebody wouldn't talk as much.
Mhm.
Like, you had to drag the information
Yeah.
out of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was camera shy or they
Right.
just didn't know what to say.
Right.
I always tell everybody that works for me, have your 30-second,
Yeah.
elevator speech ready at all
Yeah.
times. Like, come out firing. You know what I mean?
Well, and as well as I do, this isn't scripted. We didn't talk about what we were going to talk about.
And we didn't talk about what we said we were going to talk about either.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And that's what is so authentic.
Mhm.
I think, and hopefully, and I think it can go either way. I think that stresses people out. Like, what are we talking about? But then the other half of the people were like, they're not stressed because it's like, we're just having a conversation. Because when they ask, well, what are we talking about? We're just going to have a conversation.
I want to propose something to you.
Yeah.
I was approached by a friend of mine who's a very successful coach in York County. And he's big on the leadership thing. I think we should have a Leadership York conference where maybe not, that's the Leadership York has its own thing, but where we have a conference and people pay to come listen to leaders that are from our own community.
I love that idea.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In different aspects, in different, whether it be sports coaching, you have a Ron Miller or a Matt Wilson.
Yeah,
Matt Wilson
Eric
won
Brewer.
6. Eric Brewer.
There's all kinds.
Eric Brewer could put on a show himself for 3 hours.
Absolutely.
Profound to listen to him when, like,
Yeah.
it's like I could listen to him talk and coach
Well, you
all day
can
long.
definitely, he's put in the work to study leadership.
Yeah. Even
There's-
these coaches.
Yeah.
And I was saying Matt Wilson
Mhm.
won 6 state titles. I mean, you go to one of his practices, like, it is
Mhm.
like he's running a business. This is like, we're here to get things done.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
listen, and why did you do it? And how did you implement it? Because what you do in sports, and I
Mhm.
told you a long time ago, it's relative to life.
Absolutely.
Right. So how does he do it and how does he run that? That's going to be relative to my business. So I really would like to do where we get together with maybe the York County Economic Alliance or whatever,
Yeah.
and get them involved, and we run,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe we have different portions of it, sports, we have business, we have
Yeah.
life,
Right.
and have people come in from the community.
Yeah.
to talk.
Professional and personal growth.
Yeah. And then have somebody that MCs it. They
Mhm.
ask the question, maybe somebody like you MC it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, when we talk a little bit and we can film it and we can have a podcast. I'm all down for it. I
Okay.
really think I thought it was an awesome idea. And to be honest with you, I think our community's been screaming about it because you
Yeah.
and I have had the conversation, and I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of people that are very successful,
Mhm.
right? Like Tony Campese, CEO of Gladfelder. Like, you can go on and on about the people that I've gotten the chance to meet by
Yeah.
going to some of these galas and stuff.
Mhm.
Man, I can stand and talk to them for hours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could talk to me about how they put their shoe on in the morning, and I'm
Mhm.
like,
You're paying attention.
that was awesome. Like, honey, did you hear him? He put his shoe on this morning.
Right.
Like, it was profound. He put left one on first.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel our calling
Yeah.
is to do more of this. Maybe not every year.
Yeah.
You just do it once,
Yeah.
make it big.
Yeah.
And we try to cover the cost that it goes to a
Absolutely.
different, you know what I mean?
You know, what I like about that is, and Vic and I have talked about this, is that, you know, we always are sometimes our foresight's so far out there. And it's like you said, your county could use something like this. What about our community?
Mhm.
Right? I'm traveling to Dallas, Orlando, and we're making an impact all over the country. At least I think we are. Well, what about, did we lose sight, you know, of here, our community, and the impact that we think that we're having? You know, we're missing a great opportunity of having an impact that way for business owners or C-class or whatever we're going to,
C-suite.
yeah, C-suite.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
C-suite. Yeah.
What about Yorkex? Have like a TED talk or something, you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
the people come in, because I know there's a lot of innovation in the community.
Listen, and we have, I mean, there's a lot of cool things about York.
Oh.
York barbell, York peppermint patty. You know, it could turn into something where we need to rent out the Rev Stadium. You know what I mean? Like, York is already on the map, but no one really utilizes it like we could.
Yeah.
You know, because like you said, there is a lot of successful business owners here, and a lot of successful businesses have come out of York.
Yeah.
And again, I just mentioned the two that off the top of my head, but Gladfelder
Yeah.
paper. But there's students probably writing on his paper
Right.
on the West Coast
Right.
that don't even know that their paper's coming from Gladfelder.
And though they got bought and they switched it up, but still it started.
right.
And Gladfelder Insurance, our Gladfelder, I mean, he has a
Yes.
fund, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to some people that run his fund, like, hey, you know, when are they going to run out of money? And they're like,
They print
never,
that. Yeah,
never.
Right.
Like, we could give away money forever. Like, it's just that this is how thought provoking these people, they did this for years. They give it away.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I just think that needs to be heard. Also needs,
for sure.
you know, so that's, I'm in on that. If you are,
Okay.
we maybe that could be on our list. Maybe
Yeah.
we try to find a time and get that all
Absolutely.
done, get a little board together. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe we come back on here and talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's tell you what we're doing.
Or for sure, we'll definitely use this platform to promote it and advertise for it and encourage people to come if they
Yeah.
want to be better leaders, you know, be better co-workers, whatever our topics or, you know,
Yep.
direction is that we want to take it. But I think we need to do this.
Yeah. There's a lot of profound people, men or women in the community that have had a lot of success that other people need to know.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
can
mean?
think of probably 5 off the top of my head right
Yeah.
now without even
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah. And
For
there's
sure.
a ton. You
Yep.
start writing it down. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Me too.
That was awesome.
Yeah. It was good.
Are
This
we
was
done,
good.
Vic?
Yeah.
Or can we keep going?
Are we at our hour mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just appreciate the kind words earlier, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
I'm just proud of what you've done here, you and
Thank you.
Vic.
Me too.
And you know, it started with Chris Baker too. I mean, good
Yeah.
shout out to him.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Going
like,
back to the Shane DeGarry days.
yeah, man, Shane DeGarry. That was one of my first ones.
Yeah.
That was awesome. It was
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah, no
I was
doubt.
supposed to have it outside and it rained. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. We were talking about that too. As soon as the weather starts getting better, we'll be outside doing some
that
stuff.
would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
be
we're
really
going to change it up. We got some things in the pipeline here to elevate this to a whole nother level that, you know, we thought, or most people may have thought that, you know, this is the end all to be all, and it's going to be in this little gray room. And
The
this is
on-site,
just the
the
beginning.
on-site that you did at my shop, I
Yeah.
thought was very thought-provoking, because now if we're going to have a leadership meeting, maybe
Mm-hmm.
we do the tie-in where
Yeah.
things going up to that leadership meeting,
Right.
you go to that business and
There
they
you
show
go.
you around.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
like
love that idea.
with the show. So
Mhm.
make show content for you. They get on and they're going to start promoting that, and then
Mm-hmm.
we promote the fact that, you know, this person or people that are running this company are going to speak.
I love that idea. I
So
love that. Cool.
I'm just full of them
I
today.
know you are.
Really?
You need to come here more often.
You got to ask me.
Yeah.
You give me a cup of coffee, black coffee, and I'm good to go.
All right. Yeah.
Just like your 8 hyper drinks in the morning.
Red Bull. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I had a Red Bull this week yet. I cut it back. I'm down to 1 cup of coffee in the morning.
That's it.
That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just started changing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to change some things up.
Ever evolving, you know,
Revolving or evolving?
both. Both.
Yes. The answer is yes.
On that note, but thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for coming on.
Awesome.
Thank you everyone for listening and tuning in on your lunch break. Hopefully you got and gained something from this. I know I did.
Yes, I did too.
And thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for next week. Episode 218, we'll have Steven Spence. He'll actually be live and in studio like Marky was today. And well, have a good week. Have a good rest of your week. And don't forget to like, love, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Google Play, and Apple. Peace out.
Hump day.
Hump day.